Hi, I'm Khleif. Each and every week, I record an interview with a thought leader that I know you're going to get a ton of value from. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. Now, to make sure you get the latest information, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's get started. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I am thrilled you're here. And it is a real delight to interview the gentleman that I'm interviewing today. His name is Ola Dantis. And Ola was born in Nigeria. He's an immigrant like me. And I just closed on a 160-unit property in Texas. But when he immigrated, he had $180 in his pocket. So what's your excuse, my friends? Those of you listening that haven't made it happen, I want to know what your excuse is, because I'm not going to sit and listen to it. I'm just telling you right now, when I hear a story like this. Now we're going to talk about a lot of things on today's show, but without further ado, Ola, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you so much, Rod. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm a big fan, huge fan of the Lifetime Cash Flow podcast as well. So thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun today, buddy. And we're going to talk about how you've raised money for deals. You just closed on this 160-unit deal, and you started with nothing. So we're going to talk about what it took to do that. And I know you've got some strategies around finding off-market deals. We're going to talk about that. And you've got 52,000 freaking followers on Instagram, and I've got maybe 3,000. So we're definitely talking about that, because I want to know how you did that. Because guys, that's how you raise money in this business, by creating reach. And Ola's got a podcast that I've been on. Ola has a podcast called The Dwelling Show as well. So we're going to dig into all of this, guys, because he has just taken the bull by the horns and made it happen. So Ola, back up and tell us a little bit about moving here. I know you lived in the UK for a while. We were just laughing before we started recording, because I have a Brit as a Siri on my phone, and we are quite regularly. Anyway, so tell us a little of your story, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much again. Yeah, so like I said, born in Nigeria, lived in the UK for a bit, and then moved here to the United States. So that's kind of like the really quick overview. But just kind of dive into that a little bit. I went back home, during the recession, set up my business in Nigeria, was doing okay. But my wife at the time was my girlfriend, now wife. I was basically like, look, you got to do something. Like, do you want to maybe try the United States? At the time, she was actually interning in Orlando, Florida. And she's like, jump on the plane, come to the US. I was like, okay, no problem. Landed in the US. But before I landed, I just looked out the plane. I was like, oh my goodness, Florida is beautiful. That was my first impression of America. I was like, oh my goodness, this is just amazing. Long story short, 2 years later, my wife and I moved here. We had about 180. My wife keeps saying it's 180. I thought I had nothing in my wallet, but she said we had about 180.
$180 is nothing, brother. Let me share that with you, okay? That's a nice meal at Ruth Chris. Okay.
So shortly thereafter, I got a job. She got a job. Obviously, I didn't have my green card at the time. Literally just came here. And then, but we got that sorted. Got a job. Was working. Had a pretty good job. But there was something else missing, right? I just felt this, this void I could never fill. Like, I feel like I could do so much more with my life. And it was kind of like during that time, we had a little nice apartment. My wife and I were, living there, paying the rent. Life was good. We didn't have to worry about too much. But then one day my friend called me and he's like, hey, Ola, can you meet me in Dubai? I've got a meeting with some investors there. Can you meet me in Dubai? I was like, wait, Dubai? He's like, yeah, I want you to fly over to meet me in Dubai. So I was like, I did, what a smart man does. Obviously, I prayed about it. And then I asked for my wife, like, hey, my friend said I should meet him in Dubai. And she's like, wait, do you guys know about FaceTime? Do you guys know about Zoom or Skype? Or why do you have to go there in person? I was like, well, this friend of mine is a pretty top-notch guy. For him to say that, there must be something really interesting. What if I go and I learn something interesting that might help us? You never know. So I was on the plane to Dubai. I spent about 3 days. Yeah. I paid for my ticket, by the way, was on a plane to Dubai, got to Dubai, was masterminding for about 3 days in this hotel room with my friend. as I basically unpacked his real estate business and saw how much it was really doing well in the UK. Really helped him a lot. So I was like, oh my goodness, what if I can do the same thing in America? I mean, he's still based in London. And I was like, what if I take this idea and bring it back to the US? I knew nothing about real estate. I just knew about real estate like everybody else does. Pay my rent, live the American dream. And as soon as I got back, I was listening to all the podcasts, picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and everything changed. Sure. About 2-3 months later, bought my first duplex. I was so excited.
Nice. Where?
In Baltimore, Maryland, in a Class A area in Baltimore. I like to say that. Area.
Wow.
Yeah, very nice area.
By the way, it's raining really heavily here, which I can't prepare for. Is it distracting? Do you?
No, no. Actually, I can't even hear it.
Okay. Good. Okay. So you bought your first duplex. So how did you do that? Did you live in it?
I did. So we house act. Yeah, we lived downstairs. It was a 1-bedroom. It was just me and my wife. We were never in the house. We were always just, at work. So we rented the top. We had 2 tenants upstairs. And when I had my epiphany was when I got the first rent check. I was like, oh my goodness, wow. Like somebody's actually paying me for a service, for my space, essentially, right? And, I think a few months down the line, I had another epiphany. I said to my wife, I was like, I'm starting to notice that I actually have money in my account and it's growing. And she's like, me too. I was like, yeah. Like, what if we do this and keep doing this? That means we're going to have a good buckload of money. But before we bought that duplex, I want to quickly rewind back. We were living the good life in suburbia America, had an apartment, didn't worry about parking, didn't worry about lawn, didn't worry about, the water heater going down. So now moving from our comfort zone into the city where we can never find parking, where we had to carry our shopping up the stairs, it wasn't easy. But for me, success is never easy. I'm having to do this now. So when I'm, 65 years old, I don't have to be doing a job, waving somebody in at Walmart. I'm not saying that's a bad job, just that's not kind of where I want to be. So I was kind of, putting the sacrifices now so I have a much, much better future.
Of course. That's the name of the game, my friend. That's the name of the game. So I want to circle back because there's some parallels to my experience as well, but certainly with Florida. I think Florida is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I love the fact that that's the first thing that you saw that you moved here. But I don't want to minimize what you did either, because especially to where you are now, having very little money, coming to the United States, finding a job, but then building this infrastructure that you've built to capitalize on this incredible business that we talk about. And so, I really want to get into that, but let me ask you something. So you told me about the epiphanies, which is fantastic. I had the exact same epiphanies when I first started in real estate, when I bought houses. It was like, holy cow, I'm making money. And why isn't everybody doing this? And why aren't they doing as many as they can? And,
absolutely.
For me, 2,000 houses later, it was, I went and ran with it. But let's start with mindset. Tell me, did you get discouraged when you first got here, or what were you focused on? Let's talk about how you pushed yourself.
Oh man, there's so many things. I can go all day. We don't want that, of course, but mindset is the foundation of everything I do, right? I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn. You have to work on yourself first. You have to work on yourself first.
Love it. Jim Rohn is who taught my mentor, Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
So I have an affinity for him as well. So you listen to his work
religiously
now.
Yes.
Okay. And expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So, for me, if you cannot work on yourself, there's no way you can work on the outside, whatever that is, whatever the outside means for you, right? Success, getting better relationships, having a better marriage, having a better business. So it's all about the inside. So I'll give you a quick example. When I first got here, I couldn't work, right? I mean, for those that are listening to this, like I couldn't work because I wasn't legally allowed to work, right? Until I got my green card. But during that time though, I would drop my wife, at work, right, in Virginia, and I would sit in Starbucks all day studying about, business analyst, which is what I was doing. I got my job in.
So
right?
you studied to be a business analyst.
Correct.
Is what you were doing in Starbucks.
In Starbucks all day, every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when folks listen to this story, they're like, well, this guy just got here, then maybe kind of got lucky. No, there's a precursor to this, right? And I'm very, very, very certain on how to be successful. There's two things that you have to do. You have to have self-confidence. Note the self, that adjective, self-confidence. Don't wait for anybody to come and motivate you or get you confident. What if they don't show up, right? What if that person does not show up? So make sure you can.
I'm sorry. I need you to repeat what you said, because I didn't quite understand. Yes, you have to have self-confidence. Operative word is self. But what did you say after that? If who doesn't show up?
If you're waiting for somebody to instill confidence in you.
Oh, gotcha.
What if that person doesn't show up and motivate you or teach you?
Confidence comes from knowledge. Confidence comes from taking action. Okay, so please continue.
Yes, and then the second thing is discipline, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I shared that story with you. Every single day for at least 6 months, I would be smelling of coffee, learning this particular craft, right?
Love it.
So when I started real estate,
let me circle back. Hold on. I want to stop you for a second. I just want to stop you. Forgive me. I don't want to pass these two huge pieces by. Okay. So self-confidence. So how do you get self-confidence? Like I just said, you learn what it is you're doing, like Ola was doing in the Starbucks, although you shifted gears, but I'm sure you put that same discipline and attention to multifamily real estate that you did to business development or business coaching and what you were, studying at that time. And so the discipline to do whatever it freaking takes. Now, but if you don't mind, and I'm sorry, I don't want to derail because you're on a roll here, but I kind of want to I want to come back to what caused you to have that discipline. What was in your head that caused you to spend the entire day studying?
Hunger.
Okay, yeah. Hunger. Right. Love it.
Yeah,
love
there
it.
is.
Okay, so I want to dig deeper again. Sorry, I'm sorry to do this.
No, don't be.
This is good stuff. So where'd that hunger come from? What was in your mind's eye? I mean, had you, I don't want to give you any hints. I just want to see where this is going to go. So where did that hunger come from?
How I was brought up. My previous life. I used to speak at my previous job, and I would have this town halls where I would speak to a room full of people, and I would tell them that America is the best country on the planet. Now, for those living here, maybe you're born here, of course, naturally, you don't feel that. You don't have that appreciation because, I've lived on 3 continents, started businesses on 2 continents. So I have that expansive view and I have this helicopter view, right? So my hunger came from, how I was brought up, where I grew up, the things that my eyes have captured, right? So when I got to America, all I saw was opportunities, right? Some might call it, issues, problems, but I saw opportunities, right? And I knew that if I continued with my discipline and my self-confidence, eventually I would get to my goal, whatever that is.
Okay, all right. I want to stop you there. Because 2 things. One, you knew that whatever you put your attention to would flourish. And guys, if you're listening, okay, you need to own that mindset that whatever you give 110% of your energy to is going to succeed, period. Okay, it just is. And so own that mindset, because that's what got me through, a lot of the setbacks that I've had was recognizing that dynamic. Now, the other thing that you talked about, which is hard for someone that grew up in the United States to experience, is you saw contrast. Okay, you saw Nigeria and you saw the United States, and there's just a little bit of difference there, and as far as opportunity. And so, all right. So please continue, because this is really good stuff for the people listening.
Yeah, and just understanding that, when there are opportunities, there are certain formulas for you to tackle that opportunity, right? That's one of the reasons I got a coach, right? I understood that, yes, for you to be successful in a particular game, you have to understand how that game works. That's why, footballers and basketballers have coaches, right?
Yes, yes. Athletics have coaches. We have coaches. Coaches are critical. I've had numerous coaches through the years. We talked about one of them, Tony. Was one of my coaches, and I've had many since then and many before then. And so, okay, coaches. So you got a coach. You got a coach. So you could learn the formula, because every success is nothing but a formula. In anything you do, there is a formula for success. So I'm really glad you said that as well. All right, please continue.
Then I basically said to myself, so I got this duplex, I'm actually getting money, and I'm saving some money too. So this was really exciting. So I said, hey, I'm going to get a coach, I really, narrowed down the strategy to multifamily syndication. Obviously, it took some time to set up my business, dwellyn.com. Shout out, so check that out. DWELYNN. And that was a new infrastructure. I had to create that from scratch, the website, obviously now the podcast, The Dwellyn Show as well. And then got a coach to kind of guide me.
All right. You're going too fast. I want to slow you down and talk about the steps that you took, because that ties into the next topic that I want to talk about, which is branding yourself. Okay. In fact, I've got a coaching call. I awarded somebody one-on-one coaching with me for free. We did a contest, and I found this single mom with 4 kids. And she babysat kids like my mom did, and my mom's the reason I got into the business. So I awarded her this coaching, and I have a call with her today, and we're going to talk about branding. So this is perfect timing, because you have kicked ass with branding. Sorry, I didn't mean to say so you have totally made it happen with branding, because like I said, you've got, what is that, more than 20 times the number of Instagram followers that I have. You've got your own podcast. You've been doing it consistently for 2 years. I've been on it. And so you've branded yourself. So guys, those of you listening, there are such incredible opportunities with social media to get reach, to create a brand, add value. Now that's the operative word. Ola has added value. And to add value via a podcast, via your Instagram page. I was looking at your Instagram page when we first started talking, because I'm like, holy cow, you got 50,000. We need to talk. And so we're going to drill down on Instagram a little bit. I'm not letting you slide by. We're going to do that publicly. But the big message here is, with Instagram, with Facebook, with YouTube, with LinkedIn, with Twitter, there are so many effectively free opportunities that just require you to roll up your sleeves and make it happen. There are no freaking excuses, because this business is a team sport. You're going to bring in money from other people. How do you do? That's the reason I started my podcast. That's one of the 2 reasons. One reason was I wanted to share my story about getting my butt kicked in single family. If I had just been in multifamily, I'd been great. But the second reason was I hate asking for money. And I thought, you know what, if I start a podcast and add value, I'll be able to get investors. And of course, anytime I mention a deal, our phone rings off the hook, because I've built trust, and I think I come across authentically like you do. And so, guys, that's the message here. If you're going to do this multifamily business, start creating some reach. Like my coaching students, they set up their own meetups. I'm putting together a whole national network of meetups for my coaching students with my brand, Lifetime Cash Flow, and we're helping them get set up. And there's got over a dozen that have already done it, and very successfully have raised millions of dollars already for deals like you have, Ola. And so that's how you brand yourself, guys. And there's so many ways to do it that really don't cost money. They just take time. So did you want to add anything to that, what I just said?
Yeah, so I think like with the branding, it's all about adding value to, folks that are following you, listen to your story, just kind of, giving back. With the Dwellyn Show every week, I just get guests, awesome guests like Rod to come and speak about the story. If you're trying to get into this business, like, Rod said, the operative word is just giving back, right? Just constantly giving back and not expecting anything back from, those that care about your story.
Right. And guys, Ola does it through his podcast. He does it on Instagram. So he's got 2 platforms he's working. And you can do it with one. You can do a Facebook group. I mean, we've given all sorts of ways to do it. And you don't even have to create the content. Like in my meetup groups that my students do, they'll use my materials, but also they'll bring in experts like Ola does. He brought me on his show. When I first got started, I brought lots of experts on my show, and I still do. And they're adding value. And by the fact that you're curating these people and bringing value, it builds your brand. And that's how you build your brand, by caring about other people, caring about pulling them forward. That's how you build your brand. So if you don't mind, we talked about mindset. Let me ask you this. Did you do anything with goals? Did you have goals for yourself?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to have an habit. I've stopped doing it this year, but when I wake up every single morning, I have a particular format that I follow when I wake up. Like I drink a bottle of water, I drink my oolong green tea, and then I blend my fruit shake.
And you do what? I'm sorry, you drink water, you drink tea, and what was the thing after that?
I blend a fruit shake.
Oh,
and
fruit shake.
I had some wheatgrass in it. So that's kind of my morning routine. But before,
I'm drinking my veggie.
There you go.
Yeah. I can't have all that sugar with the fruit, but I'm drinking my veggie shake as we speak. All right. But then what else? So that's the body. What else?
That's the body, right? And then I write my goals down 29 times, right? I will write it down. I want to own X amount of units, by age. I put that every single day. I'll write it down. I've stopped doing that now. So that really helps me a lot. And I also meditate. So that really helps with my creativity and just kind of to just declutter my mind. I do that a lot.
You do this in the mornings. This is a morning ritual.
This is before the world wakes up. People say to me, how are you able to read so many books in a month? Because I wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't have an alarm clock. I just wake up at that time and I read.
That's very along the lines of the Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod's book. And he talks about this. And you wake up, you meditate. You do gratitude. This is what I do. I do gratitude and as for the things that I have, and then I do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them, which is very powerful. But everything you said here is important. The water is important. The nutrients are important. The focused on the goals, because when you focus on your goals enough, it triggers your reticular activating system, so that subconsciously you're pulled towards things that are going to get you those goals, and it's incredibly powerful. And of course the meditation is critical. The focus is power, my friends. And when you meditate, in fact, I meditate almost every day myself. Meditation sounds all foofy and stuff. It's just clearing your head. Like I'll just lay in bed and sometimes and focus on my breathing. Or I do transcendental meditation sometimes. I had a practitioner come to my house and show my whole family how to do it, where you just focus on a sound, just a very sound that has no meaning, but you say it in your mind, you repeat it over and over again. And what that does, guys, is it enhances your focus. And to be success in anything requires focus, because what you focus on grows, positive or negative. Okay, so that's why it's so important to start your day off thinking about the things that you want and being positive. But anyway, did you want to add anything to my response there?
No, I think that's totally wraps it. I really like that.
All right, so now let's talk about how you built your Instagram following to 52,000 people, because I need to know for my own purposes. So how'd you do it?
Yeah, that's like a whole nother podcast. So I tried to squeeze that down in like two to three.
Just give me a high level, the pieces that you did that just to share with my listeners who are thinking Instagram. I have a lot of millennials on the show, and there's lots of guys that are become very big influencers on Instagram. So let's help the wannabes. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like myself, the wannabes like myself.
So the most important word as well is adding value, right? But from an Instagram perspective, it's really about engagement, right? Mm-hmm. So being an active member of that community. And what does that mean from a tactical perspective? So you're posting at least 5 stories a day.
5? Wow.
At least 5. Okay. But then you also, I still try to do this myself from a discipline perspective. and then you post, at a specific time of the week, right? And I've experimented with, daily. I've experimented with, Thursdays and maybe, Saturdays, and I use different formats.
Okay.
I've experimented with scheduled posts where, Instagram just posts on my behalf, using third-party, apps.
Like what third-party apps have you used?
I've used Planoly.
What is it?
Planoly.com.
Planoly. How do you spell that?
It's plan and then OLY.com.
Got it. Planoly. Okay.
Yep. And then, Instagram just posts. But I think the real key here is on Instagram, you can say, go to the search button, and then you go on tags, and then you put in like real estate investing or multifamily investing. Mm-hmm. And then you basically go on to that particular, on the recent page, and you basically like at least 50 pictures, and sometimes leave a comment as well on the post and say, hey, good job on your deal, or I really like the before and after pictures. Like, not like, a lot of people say like things like, yeah, great, on
right.
Instagram. That's just not, that's not engaging a lot. So you have to be very intentional, and you have to do those kind of things, and eventually you kind of bring your following up. Obviously, I encourage folks that listen to my podcast to follow me.
You encourage what? You encourage what?
I encourage folks who listen to my podcast to follow me on Instagram.
Oh yeah, sure. Any place you have some reach, you're telling them, hey, don't forget about Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Follow me there. Okay.
Correct.
So just to drill down a little bit on one of the things you said. So you'll search people in the multifamily space, and you'll go on their pages and like a bunch of pictures, comment on one or two posts.
Yep.
And by doing so, people will see you and then follow you. Is that the strategy?
Correct. So people will see that you've obviously come onto their page, you've liked maybe 2 or 3 pictures, and mm-hmm. then you've put a really, really thoughtful comment, not just like a thoughtful
comment. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Now, you said you do 5 stories a day. So that's the thing that disappears, where you're talking about your breakfast and you're showing your, that's the thing Grant Cardone does extremely well, where his hair's all over the place and he's just talking about whatever. Is that what we're talking about here?
That's correct. Yeah, it's really ephemeral in nature, which means it's very short-lived. So it's about 24 hours and it goes away. So, on those kind of, avenues, you can be yourself more a little bit, because it doesn't stay there forever. You can be more authentic. Mm-hmm. You don't have to look a particular way, and it goes away. So you can be extremely, vulnerable and talk about things that you might not want to put on a post. So that's a really good avenue. Interesting.
So what are some of the things so you say you can be vulnerable. What are some of the things you've talked about on your stories?
Oh man, from like just motivational stuff to like telling my story, how I came here with nothing, how, I feel down as well sometimes, how I feel like I made a mistake. I had a shiny object syndrome, going into flips. So I flipped, a few houses last year, which was, in my opinion, a learning process for me.
Seminar.
Yeah, which I'm not going to do again, so those are kind of things I share. But also, like, I have a very strong, CTA, which is call to action. So at every, caption, I can make it like a micro blog sometimes, which just means you can go on my Instagram now and look at my last picture. You'd see I have like a micro blog, which is just like a little blog. And then you just basically, just spill your heart out and just, share what you're feeling, and basically encourage others to tag somebody or to let people know what they think. Because if you get more comments, other people will start to see that and maybe start to follow you.
You ask questions too, right? You'll ask a question to try to get engagement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, what's a microblog?
A microblog essentially is a blog, but very, very short.
And now, is it video or written?
Oh no, it's written. So under a picture, it's usually a picture, because you don't want to put a microblog on a video, because if I'm watching something, I don't necessarily want to read a long caption underneath the video. But if it's a post or a picture, it's more.
Did you get any education on this? I mean, did you go to a course? Did you read a book? Is there anything you did for any of this that we're talking about?
I did not do a course, but I watched a ton of YouTube videos, and I'm really interested in, marketing, right? So I love to see what Instagram is doing, how the algorithm works, and basically how you can build a following. I really like that, so I can get my message out there to people.
Okay. Well, obviously you kicked butt with it. So that's awesome. Okay. And so I know tell us about this deal you just closed in Texas, 160 doors. You're a GP on it. You raised money for it. And guys, so again, this business is a team sport. And so you aligned with people in this business, correct, Ola?
Yes.
You aligned with other people in this business. And are you the one that found the deal, or did one of the other partners find the deal?
One of the other partners found it. However, I did find a deal that we're almost going to close, which didn't work out in the end. Okay.
Well, I want to talk about how you find deals next, but so you aligned with these people. How did you meet? Were this a mentor that you met? Is that how you met these people?
So we have a syndication group, a closed group with our coach. So we're part of the same group. So we all kind of coalesce together and kind of pool funds. And because like you said, Rod, in this business, in apartment syndication is relatively complex compared to flipping a house. So you do need a team regardless. Even if you're a Saudi prince, you still need a team of lawyers, and you just need a team.
You got to pull it together. Okay, so you have this team that you work with, and you found this deal, you closed it. Let's talk about let's shift gears. I want to talk about how to find off-market deals, because that's one of your superpowers. So let's talk about how you find off-market deals. Talk about some of the strategies.
So direct marketing, but I call it.
What does that mean?
So direct marketing is when you write sophisticated letters. For some listening to this now, you've probably got a letter in the mail saying, I want to buy your house, right, from some guy in your area. Not that. We write a tailored letter, hopefully to somebody in an acquisition department of a pretty big, company that owns apartments in the Texas area. And we introduce ourselves, talk about some of the deals we've done in the market, if any, and then, express our interest in some of their deals. Well, we don't go too hard on them. We just say, hey, we're in the market. If you're ever thinking of this, if you're in the disposition phase of your deal, let us know. And, some folks might get, well, why would anybody want to sell their apartment? Well, for those of you who understand the asset class properly, you typically want to exit between 5 to 7 years, because your IRR, which is your internal rate of return, start to depreciate, start to compress after 7 years, mathematically. So most companies would hold an asset, from anywhere between 2 to 7 years and dispose it and kind of restart the process. So that's why that works. We also use, a third-party app, which is called CoStar, to basically reach out by phone to some of the apartment owners and just introduce ourselves and say, hey, we're in this market. Let us know if you're ever thinking of selling. And then sometimes we'll pull the list if we're unable to get to some folks by phone, and just basically reach out to them through our direct mail as well.
Nice. And your target market is Texas. Are there any other target markets?
We like Jacksonville a lot. There's been a lot of I know that's kind of close to where you're in your neck of the woods.
Next time you're in Jacksonville, you should drive down and we'll hang out.
You're in Sarasota, right?
Sarasota. Yeah, it's a bit of a haul. But would love to host you if you ever come down this way. But no, Jacksonville's nice. It's got some tough areas in it, but it's got military as well, military component. But it's pretty diverse employment base, so the military doesn't scare me. But no, I would absolutely look at opportunities there as well. So that's a good market. Okay. Well, now you started to talk about masterminding when we first started talking. Tell me your thoughts on masterminding.
I think they're absolutely crucial. I did another one this year in February. I had my partner come from the UK, and we just kind of mastermind on his business and on my business here, and just see, what are we doing wrong?
Spitballing,
yeah,
just bouncing things off each other. Yeah. I love it. I've got a mastermind. I'm blessed. It's the largest, I think, in the world for multifamily investors. We're well over 5 billion in assets represented, and I just want to hear what you had to say, because I so believe in it, and I've been in numerous masterminds myself. I've made millions of dollars from those relationships that I've made in those masterminds, and the people that I've met are lifelong friends. And it's just an incredible dynamic. You know, it's like a rising tide raises all ships dynamic. So anyway, listen, I want to thank you for being on the show, my friend, and it's been a lot of fun. And let me know the next time you're in Florida, and we'll get together, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ron.
Right. Sounds good. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you listen to podcasts, join me on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to those podcasts. Just search for Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing.